Because like outside of like flipping around on hula hoops or something, or jumping up and down on a trampoline, there's not much that I could have done.
Oh
And
my
when I
God.
see people doing things in person that I really don't believe I have a shot at doing, I am really impressed by that. So you can mark me as super impressed by the Cirque du Soleil.
Entering the Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy, the U.S. Open. Picks, bets, one and done, CUST top 3 plays, the most anti-Andercust players of the week, and a breakdown of the full betting board if you want to help out this show. And Geoff Fienberg is on the line. Tambo got one of his teams through to the finals of the Fantasy Golf World Championships, which means he's giving away 5% of whatever he wins in Detroit to you good people out there if you are in the giveaway draw. And the 2 ways that you can do that through this show is by using code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now, and you still get your deposit match of up to $250. But if you've used code Mayo, you get 40 ballots in the draw from me in order to get a share of the 5% he's given away. $1 million is top prize, which means he could be giving away $50,000 for people out there, viewers of this show who participate, to put in their bank account. That would be fantastic news. Straight cash, homie. Additionally, subscribe, rate, and review to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast on Apple. That will give you 10 ballots. Do it on Spotify as well. That will give you another 10 ballots. I'm giving away $500 cash and a few Fantasy National memberships for the year as well, Geoff. But now's the time for you to get in on this stuff.
Love it. Tambo's the man. That's incredible. Free monies. Let's go.
Yeah, and it's guaranteed money, too. So some money is coming back. Whether it's going to be $50,000 or not, I have no idea. You should probably go root him on, and hopefully he can end up winning the $1 million top prize. But the Ship It Nation YouTube channel is another way you can get into the draw as well. If you go sub to that, sub to this one while you're here. Any just very quick thoughts about the week, about Memorial? And are we just crazy for not saying, hey, 3-1, Scottie, sounds good?
Yeah, 3-1 Scottie. Just sort of end the show. See you guys next week. Talk about like some PGA Tour stuff. I didn't see anything on the weekend. I had yesterday's round recorded. I watched, with the finger on that 30-second forward button. I watched it. It was times like entertaining. At times it felt like it must have been really sloppy, but then you looked at the scores after and you realize they all just, I'm sure that's how everyone's round looked, that they probably look better. Jack is, people tell those stories. Like he watches a shot doing that on the broadcast. He doesn't like how it plays. He completely changes something for next year. He's always up to something there. It's one of the best events we have. Scottie wins. What he's up to, it's incredible. I don't really have a thought other than there were a lot of times I got like my nuts rubbed over the course of this tournament. Not the total rub that you Morikawa folks got that I pivoted off of late, but it felt like everyone I bet on from like Friday afternoon through Saturday was like in the top 2 or 3 at one point, and they weren't there in the end. And in the end, it was the guy who felt like he might have been as popular, more popular than anybody this week.
Victor got a case of the it gone bad on the back 9 on Saturday. It was horrible.
To check in and see that he's right there, right after Scottie makes a triple, and then to come back and see like he's just completely, he caught a train, like he can catch some bad. He doesn't have the quickest on-course fix. It can get ugly. Unlike my boy Ludwig, who can literally just like par home from anywhere, it seems. Victor can catch a train and go bad. Like CUST, I thought I would have been shocked if on Friday afternoon he wasn't telling you Connors was going to win. And then Connors shot like 8 over the rest of the day. It happened to so many guys. From Fitzpatrick on Thursday, like so many guys were going great, and then they literally finished the round like 4 over par.
Anytime that Shane Lowry gains a tremendous amount of strokes on the field, just bet against whatever his number is going to be. He had an awesome round on Saturday, and I believe he was 13 over on Sunday. Keegan Bradley was very much in the mix on Saturday, and I think he put it into the water or out of bounds on a par 5 on the back 9. I think he finished 10 over for the week.
What did Connors finish?
Top.
When I got my car to go up north, he was winning.
I think he finished 20th.
Yeah, all of them. They all just sort of went backwards. Morikawa, to his credit, like, in sort of looking back at it, you made one double bogey. Was that on Friday? Late, and it kind of put him back, but he never had the evaporation that every other seemingly high quality player who tried to get up there, or not even high quality, even the mids that got in there, like Connors, they all simply had like a moment. Morikawa, to his credit, he never poofed, and he was able to hold around and battle, and make it, be there to have a tight finish. But last year it was a low winning score. This year again, what a crazy golf course. And like you said, they got a lot of rain, and it seemed firm and hard as anything. So I think Pinehurst is going to be a bitch.
Yeah. So one more thing that I want to hit on before we get to CUST and break down this board. Soderberg, your guy over in Sweden this week, blew an 8-stroke lead going into the final round, including a missed 1.5 footer on the final round to get into the playoff, made double bogey from the middle of the fairway on the 72nd hole to really gag it away. And it got me thinking about the worst, not the overall worst beats ever in golf, because Van de Velde would have to be the biggest one there ever was. But how many people really had money on that at the time? Like, in your worldview, what's the worst one that's ever happened to you? I can give you mine right off the hop. It's not even close.
When Morikawa did something?
I mean, people can go search the shorts on the Mayo Media Network YouTube channel to see me freak out about Morikawa at the Century in real time. That was awful. But I had money on Robert Garrigus at 125 to 1, one of the very first golf tournaments I ever bet in 2010 at the St. Jude. And this is when he was sweating through his pants. It was a very hot day in Memphis. He had a 3-stroke lead on the 72nd hole and just duck hooked it. Left of the water that's on 18, made triple bogey, ends up going to a playoff with Harrison Frazier and Lee Westwood, and then he bogeys the first hole of the playoff, and he's just out of the playoff, and Lee Westwood ends up going to beat Harrison Frazier. It was unbelievable watching the meltdown in real time, and I was losing my mind.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, nothing really sticks out. When I've had those scary moments, they've usually prevailed in the end, like 6-stroke leads that got back to tied.
Akshay would have been an all-timer.
Yeah, Akshay, the Ricky Fowler at the Waste Management a few years ago, that felt, for me though, the one I still remember, that I handled the absolute worst, that I took the worst, even though he made it up for me at the very next Masters, would be Adam Scott at that Open Championship. And was it Ernie who got it in the end, or maybe Phil?
It was Ernie.
Yeah, it was Ernie. I like blacked myself out and went to see The Dark Knight. I wanted to escape reality the moment that one ended. The good thing about that is it ends early in the day here. So there's a lot of time. There's a lot of time to play, wanting no part of reality.
So I want to hear from you guys down in the comment section. You know, after you use code Mayo at Underdog and get yourself in the draw and get yourself your deposit bonus of up to $250. What is the worst golf beat you've ever had? Because I really feel, and this happens with anything, poker, football betting, any sort of betting, that you always remember the bad ones more than the good ones. And in the good category, Seb Straka chipped in on the 18th hole to cash his top 5, which was fantastic, Geoff.
Incredible. Seemed like a pretty popular play last week, hitting the ball lovely. A lot of credit. Hit that top 5.
Well, let's talk about credit, because this time last year we had a good chuckle at someone who picked Wyndham Clark as their gold pick, but he proved us and all of the haters wrong and broke the curse for 1 year. Although once we release the custies next week, we'll see that it wasn't a curse-free year by any stretch of the imagination. But on the line to see if he can come up with his repeat performance from 12 months ago, 365 days ago today, it is Tim Andercust.
Tim Andercust.
That is not my name. Not only did I nail it at the last U.S. Open, I was in second place at the PGA Championship when someone shot 20 under and didn't win. And I had the first round leader at the Masters. So, like, There is no better big game hunter that you're going to get than me.
You are currently $4 million behind second place in our 3-man one and done.
But if it were just major championships, I'd be in great shape. But I guess I really have to give Geoff the credit to be the big game hunter here, because he picked Martin Kaymer to win the U.S. Open the last time it was at Pinehurst. He nailed it with the big win. So he's the big game hunter when it comes to Pinehurst. He knows what's going on.
That was great. So just quick story. I had money on Martin Kaymer, but it was one of those pinata pick things where anyone you get is 100-1, and it's a random optimizer who spits it out. And shout out to our boy Camera One Drew, who's now doing big things. It was his account, and I gave him money to make 2 bets for me. One of them was an amateur, so I'm like, oh, this is great. The next one was Martin Kaymer. I wasn't even that excited. I think he was like 66-1 to win. I wasn't betting him, so I had him at like 100-1, and he won, and that was awesome. That was awesome, because like everyone else, I'd have gotten totally waxed that week. I've never seen anything that great come from those optimizers. I've seen our boy EPAT have like a Rory huge number at one of the majors. I'm sure he was 8-1 at or something, so that was cool to see it pop out. But I don't play, despite having that success, I don't really play in those streets. Maybe I should, in honor of, I should go back into that site though and spin the pinata.
Probably couldn't hurt, since every other pick we make at a major doesn't win. So maybe just handing yourself over to the computer and a randomizer, that's the way to go.
Yes. I mean, there's a chance you could get Scottie, but I wouldn't be ripping packs for it.
I mean, that's a pretty good equivalent. It is like ripping packs, but for huge odds.
Yeah, you're chasing like some insane 1-of-1 that's out there, that people go after, so, but I don't know. That's kind of feels fruitless at this point. But yeah, I guess any pick it came up with could be better than mine. But let's get to Tim here.
So, Tim, you need to nail your 3. We did give you quite a hearty chuckle when you made Wyndham Clark your gold selection for last year. And then, egg on our faces. Big win for you. The community loved it. So is this going to be a repeat for the U.S. Open, that your gold pick is going to come through?
I think so.
Okay.
I hope so. But because I don't get to follow the rules of everybody else, I go with the bronze first. And so my bronze pick is Adrian Meronk. He played very well at Live Houston. He's a long hitter. I know this is not a traditional U.S. Open course in terms of length being the most important thing in the world, but I want at least one of my 3 picks to be a more classic U.S. Open build. So I'm taking Meronk as my bronze pick.
Okay. And as you mentioned, it's not the end-all, be-all here. And I broke this down in my newsletter last night, and I kind of got into it with Keith a little bit during the research show. Everything now out completely free. You can sub to the newsletter for free down in the description right now. Even if you're not subbed, you can just click on the link and boom, it'll bring you to the course preview. That driving distance did play a huge factor, and that driving accuracy probably does trump driving distance in the overall scheme of things, but these fairways are gigantic. I think that people forget that the average driving accuracy percentage here, Tim, is 70%. It's really high. Extremely
high, which again makes me think that I want some guys who don't take a ton of distance too, but it's tough to gauge. My second one.
Did you watch Live Houston?
I watched the last few holes. Yes, I did. When it was very obvious who was going to win the Memorial. That was obvious from like several holes. As soon as Morikawa missed his putt on, was that 15, 16? You knew at that point Scottie had no chance of losing. Big Guy tweeted that because he had no chance of losing at that point. My silver pick, and it's the chalkiest pick of all time, is Cameron Smith. Everyone's going to have him. I'm having him too. Pat said last week, and I made the note of it, that the most important thing here is to be good at sawgrass. So I wanted someone who had won at Sawgrass, someone who length doesn't matter as much, but hitting fairways would be more important. He's going to be an extremely chalky pick at 40-1, but I am taking him anyway.
I don't think that sawgrass is the most important thing. I think you're embellishing that a little bit. I just happen to note that a lot of the guys that did very well in 2014, and they've changed the greens since then. It went from bent grass to ultra dwarf Bermuda grass since that last U.S. Open. So maybe that changes things a little bit. I actually think it puts it more in the favor of something like the Players' Championship because the green types are going to be very similar to how those roll. But just so many former Sawgrass winners ended up inside the top 12. 6 inside the top 12 have a Players' Championship to their name. So it is most definitely something that I'm considering as well. I wouldn't say it's the most important thing.
Did you see that Cameron Smith scorecard yesterday?
All over the place.
He started 4 under. He's like, he almost did what a lot of guys were doing at Memorial on the weekend. Anytime you got it going, then you had explosions. I experienced that with Connors and Hovland at certain points. But yeah, he went like bogey, double bogey. Like, I don't know. It was really weird. I guess he'll be popular. I'm not betting him.
Cam Smith 8 over in the final round of Live Houston.
Yeah.
You got a gold pick?
Yeah. It's my time. I'm using Scottie Scheffler.
Oh, good call.
Yeah, there.
You talked about Sawgrass being the most important thing. Well, who won the last 2 tournaments at Sawgrass? Scottie Scheffler. Who's the best player in the world? Scottie Scheffler. Who, if he plays his best, no one, like, people always say, well, Rory's got the highest ceiling. That's foolish. No, he doesn't. Scheffler has the highest ceiling of everything. He's better at everything in the golf game right now than anybody else, other than maybe driving distance in a major because Bryson gets to compete. Other than that, like, there's no one who's better at anything than Scottie is. You talk about a weird place like Sawgrass. Who chips in all the time? Scottie Scheffler chips in all the time. Like, you need some magic beans to go your way to win a major championship. Well, nobody is really better at, like, making it almost a skill than Scottie Scheffler. The purse is huge. He is going to rip this place apart. I don't think it's going to be close, actually. I think we're going to see a 2014 style runaway. I think he's going to win by 4 or more strokes, and I like him a lot this week.
So I guess that comes down to, I mean, if this was your betting card, would you just bet Scheffler then? Would you even bother with the other 2? Like, if you have to eat that much in terms of the odds, can you bet anyone else?
You can sprinkle on a couple of really long shots. For example, I don't know what Justin Rose's odds are. He makes a ton of sense for this tournament. I don't know what David Puig's odds are. I think he makes a lot of sense for this tournament. But, like,
hold on.
long
What's his
odds,
first name? What's his name?
Puig.
Let's say the Saint David.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Why do you think that he makes sense here?
I just think he's playing good golf. He's got long odds. He got himself into this tournament by playing well and getting in through the qualifier. I think he's going to play. I like the long odds. I think he's going to be a real star. I think he's overpriced because people don't see him as often as they ought to.
I think you can pick up, like, just as a guy who likes to bet, I think if you bet Scottie, you threw out any name 50-1 or above, I wouldn't, like, give you a hard time. Just a guy you like for your own peace of mind. I guess you could do that. Tim, I was wondering, is this like, if you had used Scottie in a one and done already, would you have used him? Because I was going to come in here and, like, really make fun of you if you weren't going to use him yet. I don't know what you've been holding him, but here's the time. You got to use him, and can't argue any part of it. I mean, even
no, it's
wrong.
it's like playing Risk. I've been holding my cards to cash in at the right moment, and this is the moment to cash in for my armies.
Well, I feel like Pat got a second out of him. I got a win at the Masters.
I got to win.
So,
I got to win out of him at the Players' Championship. So I actually got the most benefit from a Scottie win.
Yeah, although I think the U.S. Open purse and the Players' Championship is like equal now. Used to be
you've
the
gotten
U.S.
to go
Open had the
first,
biggest purse.
and you've gotten to go first every time. So, like,
I'm aware.
Okay.
Look, Bryson came this close to winning me the PGA Championship. Like,
winning me the PGA Championship, not like the huge community of us who had real money on him, but you.
yeah, the credit that I would get. Yes.
I agree. I'd have been happy to give you the credit.
And I'd have been happy to receive it.
Can we talk about we're less than 1 year away from since Wyndham did what he did for you, and somehow you've managed to start a rivalry with him?
No, it's not it's not a rivalry. I took a couple of whacks at him when he made gratuitous and rather unfunny comments about Liv, and he has been less than stellar in his last 2 major championship appearances. I don't have any beef with him. I think what he said wasn't funny, and it was funny to see him not even be able to play 54 holes in those 2 majors. And I'm moving forward.
I agree.
He makes sense here. Wide fairways. He's inaccurate, but hits it long. Would it shock me if he went back to back? No, he would. I wouldn't pick him this week by any means, but I wouldn't be shocked by it either.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, I think the thing that people really need to focus on here is who is not going to win the U.S. Open at Pinehurst.
That's a good question. I have 3 names of people that I just don't. First is Hideki Matsuyama. People are like, oh, Hideki is turning it. No, he's not. Don't pick him. Don't waste your money. Can't win this. Not going to win this. So throw Hideki out. Throw Tyrrell Hatton out. Why? Because you need to be cerebral. I think you mentioned this, Pat, about the need for sort of a calm demeanor to take advantage of this golf course. I don't think he's suitable for this place at all. I don't like him. And then in terms of way up the board, Rahm's hurt and he's not in a good space. I think you can write Rahm off. I really do. And I don't like saying that. I think you can write him off. His odds are still way too short at 25-1, given the way he's been playing and giving, I would say there's no guarantee he's even going to play this week, let alone play well. I'm going to write Rahm off too, but he's the least confident of those 3 because he's Jon Rahm and he's a fantastic golfer. Maybe he could turn it around, turn it on or something.
Well, I hope the opposite thing happens for you because I did bet Hideki. Hideki's odds started ballooning out of control. So if you're
Waste your money.
anti-correct about this is going to be fantastic for me.
Well, if it's anything like the last U.S. Open, the 3 guys I just mentioned will finish 2nd, 3rd, and 4th to my pick.
I mean, if that happens, I'll have the top 8 each way on him, so then I'll still make my money. So I'll be still pretty happy with that. What is it about Hideki that you don't like?
I don't trust him. He has not played enough golf for me to think that he is anywhere in the condition to win major championships or even really vie for a major championship.
What are you talking about?
He's
not playing enough. He hasn't played enough golf.
You're betting guys you like guys on live, and you're talking about
Who
not
play professional golf. Who play a lot of professional golf.
I don't even. There's guys that are playing less than Hideki.
Not since like March. No.
Tim isn't wrong. He's played 3 times since the Masters. He played the Masters, the PGA Championship, and he played last week. And last week was the first time that he looked like Hideki from earlier on this season, which is comforting to know. And the fact that he actually played in a tournament and didn't withdraw from it, I think is a big boost for him.
I'd say
It's a mirage.
on the handful of guys who might actually, not even, maybe it's like one single hand of guys who might actually be able to beat Scottie. It's Hideki Matsuyama.
Good U.S. Open track record, too. He was 35th here in 2014. He would have been, 22 then, Geoff?
Wow. Yeah, probably. Maybe even a little bit. Yeah, give or take.
Do you like Pinehurst, Tim?
That's a good question. Not really. I'm not against it. I'm not upset the U.S. Open goes there. There's great history there. Of course, Payne Stewart's famous putt on Father's Day to beat Phil. I don't love the greens. I feel like the greens can punish good shots. But, call me a traditionalist. I like my Oakmonts and my Winged Foots. I like the super high rough and the thinner fairways. To me, that's just more of a classic U.S. Open test than this place, which, has the wide fairways and is completely pot luck when you get into the waist area. Too much of the tournament turns on just a lucky break in the natural area, which I don't know, feels like to me for the national championship, for what is supposed to be the truest test in the game, leaving so much up to random chance and having putting surfaces that can punish really good shots, I don't think is ideal for the championship. So it's not my favorite spot. And once every 8 to 10 years is enough of Pinehurst number 2 to me. Not that I don't think it looks beautiful. I'd love to play the place. I think it's really cool. It's just not what I'm going for a U.S. Open, if that makes sense.
I can see it. Do you have any final U.S. Open thoughts before we get into the odds board?
I think it's going to play easier than people think. Muirfield Village will play tougher than this place will play.
So you think that the winning score is going to be double digits under par?
Yeah, I think so. 11 or 12 under. I know the the forecast, which I looked at, is going to be blisteringly hot temperatures. I think that's going to be. I don't think that's going to cause quite a challenge, the way like rain and wind would. We're going to have just a ton
it's
of
going to be
heat.
firm. It's going to be firm.
I was going to say the other way.
But they've had a lot of
with
rain
that.
there. They've had a lot of rain there.
No,
so
but
I
there's
don't know
no
how
rain
firm it's gonna
coming. There's
get.
very, very little rain.
But they've had a bunch of wetness there, so I don't know how much fire they're going to get into that place.
Oh, it'll fire, I think.
And we'll see. But
They overcorrect too. The USGA will love an correction. Last year got a little. They're even gonna stiff it out. I don't know.
Now they know this place better. Like they didn't know what to do with LA Country Club in their defense. So the USGA is not great at setting up golf courses to begin with, and when they get a place they've never really had, they can easily make mistakes. They can embarrass themselves, like they did with Erin Hills or with LA Country Club. They know Pinehurst. Pinehurst is one of their staples, so they can probably adjust if they set it up incorrectly on Thursday. But I just look at that place and I look at the lack of rough and the huge fairways, and I think in 2024 we're going to have between 4 and 6 golfers who are going to be strongly under par, and a winner that's going to be 11 or 12 under par. The way I look at that place, I don't think they can bring back the scores enough at that track. Maybe I'm wrong. They'd have to make the greens so outrageously unfair that if Zach Johnson is within 40 miles of the place, he'll complain on TV about it. That's about the only way they're going to be able to get that place, I think, tough enough to get the score close to even par.
I don't think 12 would be the worst thing in the world. Like, I don't think that's what they're going for. I think 12 is still fine. I know people will be furious.
Is there any hold on? Is there any outcome where people just wouldn't be furious? That just seems to be the default emotion that people have about any tournament now.
No, if the
fans are the happiest, the players will be the most furious.
Like if things play out like they did at the Country Club, where like the winning score was like 5 under 2 years ago, we had a tournament like that. I don't think anyone would be upset about that. If it's a close run thing and the winning score is like between 1 and 7 strokes under par, I think people will be okay with it. But I just think this place is not quite up to that task. We'll see. I'm very curious to see. I could be very wrong, and they're going back to this place as an anchor several times over the next 30 years. So like, get used to Pinehurst number 2 in your life. It's coming back for the rest of your life.
In the past, in the past 3 U.S. Opens that have been contested at Pinehurst, only one player has finished better than 1 under par.
That's true. But last year, that was 10 years ago. How much better has everybody gotten over the last 10 years? Much further does the ball go? How much more talented is everybody? Like, look, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to see them really make this place tough but fair and have a winning score like 4 under par. That'd be awesome. I just think that the likeliest odds is that some of the top guys are just going to hit nothing but fairways and just eat them alive.
Interesting. All right, because the biggest protection this place has, and I do think that firm and fast is going to end up being a bigger challenge than rain in the forecast or wind in the forecast. Because many people said the same thing, myself included, about last week at Muirfield Village, that Columbus, that area had gotten an unbelievable amount of rain in the month of May. So in theory, it would have played a little bit softer. And it did play a little bit softer day one when they had the rain overnight, but then they just tricked it out that it would be impossible over the weekend.
And the USGA could very well do that, and they might do that. I just feel like they have fewer cards to play when your rough is not rough and it's completely potluck.
It just seems like the greens are the big equalizer at this place, and it's not so much that they're going to crank them up that no one can put a shot 5 feet from the hole. Like, you can score.
Pin positioning. Putting the pin in tough spots.
But on these greens, there's only so many spots where you can actually put them. The biggest defense that this course has, and why I think that the USGA always comes back to this, is that the greens reject approach shots regardless of what happens with the way that they're contoured. Once you get to like the one level where everything is, everything is a little bit better. It's just hard to hold approach shots on it, and it'll be even more difficult the hotter and more baked out that it gets.
Yeah, I mean, people remember Phil at Shinnecock, but JD did the exact same thing here at Pinehurst in '99 to express his disgust with how the greens were rolling. So you are right. That is the number one way to defend this course is by making the greens themselves.
I mean, he may have been drunk when he did that too. So, like, who knows?
It's possible.
I expect they're going to try and break the guys, but I always expect, and I'm wrong a lot, not just on this and a lot of aspects. I think 1 or 2 of these great players, at least I always believe a couple great players will just be great. Like, I don't know how, if a couple of these guys with modern tech, what their A game, like if they have their A game, I think they can do whatever they want still. For the most,
like
not whatever they want, but like avoid real trouble and take advantage of where they need to take advantage of. Now,
if Rory is dialed
whoever
in,
wants to ride Scottie's drift.
if Rory is like dialed in on Thursday afternoon, then like he can shoot 65. Like he can do that.
I think it'll. Well, yeah.
Tim,
It is being played at a par 70, which is good too.
It's way harder than all the other Donald Ross courses,
Yeah.
but there will be guys, and guys will get blown up. There'll be guys that get the bad breaks and get no bounces, and every time they hit it in the rough, they're under one of those bushes and rough into the sand. They're in the bush, and they're making the huge numbers and playing their way out of it. It's just Scottie doesn't. Sort of Tim's point, like he gives you a triple bogey. He'll miss putts that you need the guy to miss, and he still like does enough of everything else always to pull it out. It's incredible.
Did you see,
What are we
Tim,
doing here?
on Monday morning, this morning, that Sergio got into the field?
I did not. Who withdrew?
I don't know. And I thought that Adam Scott was like next man up, but he's not. He's now the next man up. So if Rom WDs, which I don't think that he's gonna
Scott's
do.
in.
What's that? Oh, Scott's
Scott
in.
got in this morning.
Oh, Scott did get
Yeah.
in this morning. So do we like
Yeah, there was a
Tim,
yeah.
do you like Adam Scott now? Adam Scott and Sergio, the wily vets getting themselves into the tournament?
No, not really. I said the wily vet I'm on is Justin Rose.
Can we do a Day versus Justin Rose bet? Because I kind of like Jason Day for little to no reason.
Okay. I mean, I don't hate that. I mean, I hope Jason Day wears that golf sweater from Augusta again. He shows that off.
His Sig Pack sweater?
Yeah, I loved that sweater. Like that's drip right there. That is good golf drip.
Yeah, I don't think these things are Can we get these for you that you can wear on our golf trip?
I'd wear them in a heartbeat.
Okay. I'll have to get that sponsorship.
I love Scott and Sergio getting to.
I mean, I don't hate either of them, but I'm not going to pick them. Whatever.
Oh no, I don't even mean so much for betting.
Scott makes sense. I mean, Scott
Yeah.
won the Players Championship. I guess he fits that mold.
Last thing. I think we're recording the Custies later today, so maybe this comes up there, maybe on a future Cust Corner. But a quick review of Cirque du Soleil that you went to this weekend.
It was so impressive. They can do things I can't do.
Wow,
That's
really?
what I was so blown away by.
Really?
Like, just about everything they did, I couldn't do. I was shocked, like, just how impressive, like, the acrobatics and the juggling and the balance. Like, I was blown away by all of it. Because, like, outside of, like, flipping around on hula hoops or something, or jumping up and down on a trampoline, there's not much that I could have done. And when I see people doing things in person that I really don't believe I have a shot at doing, I am really impressed by that. So you can mark me as super impressed by the Cirque du Soleil.
What's crazy is when you watch the NFL, you think you have a shot at doing that stuff.
Some of the things, I'll get you those 10 yards if you give me an NFL offensive line. I'm getting you that first down. But I am not flipping halfway across the arena in the air to be caught by another person off of, a trapeze or something. Not happening. I'm not juggling 14 bowling pins at once. Not happening.
You won't even do a somersault or whatever they've been asking you to do forever.
That's why I'm saying I was so impressed by because when they're doing things, people are doing things I know I can't do. That impresses me.
Does that mean that you think that you cannot do a cartwheel now?
I didn't say that. I said I can't do the acrobatics that those people were doing.
Can you do a cartwheel?
I think so.
Then how come you never do it?
Whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, go see the Cirque du Soleil if it's in your neighborhood or town. You will be impressed.
How many people there do you think were on mushrooms?
I don't think anybody was.
You don't think a single person was on mushrooms at Cirque du Soleil?
I don't think so. No, it's a family atmosphere.
Not even like big knocked up fans?
I don't think anybody was doing anything like that.
Geoff, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's local to where you guys live. I guarantee there's some people there, probably even like people that you would have just thought looked like your next door neighbor. Could have easily been doing it.
I would agree with Geoff on this one, Tim.
I disagree.
So let's recap. Your top 3 picks in descending order. Moronk, Cam Smith, Scottie Scheffler. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then the 3 players who cannot win, Rahm, Hatton, and the most likely not to win is Hideki Matsuyama.
That's correct.
Well, that's good news for me, thanks to Tim Undercust.
Tim Andercust.
And yes, that is his name. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now will get you a deposit bonus of up to $250. And Geoff, I have to ask, are you wearing a Cleeks hat?
No, this is a Grayson hat. I love Grayson. Probably my favorite golf brand going right now. I've worn this hat before, but they did a line a while ago. It's like a Gothic G. It even looks like a bit of a GF. So I took a liking to that hat and a couple other of their pieces that sort of had what I felt was a personal monogram.
So you're like Tiger Woods. You got your own brand on the go now, your own logo?
Well, not exactly, but like if a company that I love makes a logo that I like, then feel like I'm insane. I'm insane. We'll find out officially soon. Not most insane, but I'm a bit insane. But a company I love put out a line that turned the G into the Gothic G, and I felt like, yeah, it called me. So I made some purchases. I feel like I've worn it before, though. I've had it for a while.
You don't know that you're not most insane.
I don't know. I'm nervous. There's some people in my house who are also a little bit nervous because, I don't know what Tim's like repercussions are when he loses these awards or wins them, I should say. But, I got to walk upstairs after and there's other people. And it's not a good look. But hey, I put myself out there and we do it. So finding out soon.
Let's try to see if we can get ourselves a winner at the U.S. Open. Go to the top odds. Scottie is 3-1 to win the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. Obviously, he is CUST, number 1 pick, number 1 guy, number 1 boy of the week. Scottie Scheffler, the top pick. That's probably the only thing that's like really working against Scottie Scheffler at this point. I'm not going to bet a guy at 3-1. I'm just not doing it. And I did see earlier that if you would bet $100 on Scottie Scheffler, who's won 5 times so far this year, to win every tournament, do you know how much money you would have profited so far, Geoff?
Every Scottie win $100?
No. Like if you just bet Scottie Scheffler at every tournament in 2024 to win and bet $100 on it, how much profit would you have?
Like 2,700, $3,000, 3,500,
$1,500.
So you'd have all the wins, and you'd eat the. Okay, wow. Like I don't want to scoff at that. We're snobby golf outright bettors. So it's like whatever. You can keep your $1,600. Good for you. Like I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. That's crazy.
Do you think that many people are going to go and take the Scheffler at 3-1?
Yeah, I do, Pat. Yeah, I do. And my biggest regret, like when I feel like I know, our biggest mistake in life is sometimes like feeling like we know something, right? And I love to bet football. I love to bet golf. They're kind of like my hobbies. So, I allow hobbies to get expensive. You don't lose every bet. Shown over the years, I'll hit my quota here. Football, you win, you lose. You probably lose a lot more than you win. You try to be disciplined in all of it. What I'm trying to say is, when I know nothing, I'm great. I'm great. UConn at the college basketball. Shout out to Drew Dinsick, whale capper. I heard him do this rant on Iga, this woman who won the French Open. Like this is a woman's Nadal, this, that. I absolutely hammered it. If I posted it, my wife would kill me. Okay? Like hammered it. I could lose bets the rest of the summer on this. She was minus like 160 to win a tennis tournament. Hammered it. She wins. Am I betting on Patrick Mahomes? No. I'm betting on like Josh Allen. Let's see someone else win. And in the Super Bowl, I'm like, well, I had a 49er future, so I didn't bet the Super Bowl, but I probably wouldn't have bet the Chiefs. So when I know something, I suck. When I don't know something, I'm just fine. I'm just fine. And I would say anyone who wants to step in and bet the casuals coming in, just bet them. Just bet them. Just bet them. 3-1, just bet them. I don't know, unless you want to bet guys at 100-1 with each ways and catch a fun clip of something that obviously will pay more than 3-1. Like that's what I'd say to do. I'm probably going to do neither.
Let's talk about the rest of the guys in the top of the betting board then. Rory is second up. He is 10-1. Xander is 11. Morikawa 14. Hovland 16. Bryson 18. Ludwig is also 18. Brooks is 20. Rahm is 25. That's everyone from below 30-1. Now, if you want to use an enhancement, let's say like Bet365 right now, you can get Brooks up to 25, you can get Rahm up to 30, Morikawa up to 17. So a bit more palatable odds for these guys. I bet on Brooks at 30-1 on Saturday when he was going bad in Houston. Scottie was running away with Memorial. They very quickly adjusted that, but you can still get the 25 that's out there, and I would bet the 25 that is still out there. Like if someone's going to knock Scottie off, Brooks still strikes me as the top guy to do it.
Hard to argue that. Like
and,
it really
and
is.
Listen, he didn't have a great week in Live Houston, but he had the round of the day on Sunday and was 7 under. So good form coming in.
Yeah, and he does, long enough, certainly more than long enough for the U.S. Open. You trust his big game moments. You trust his ability to scramble. He's always so clutch, and not even like a Magic Beans way. It just looks good. And his ability to save bogey when it's supposed to be double bogey is also an incredible quality of Brooks. It's the same song and dance. The number seems to be getting more fair. The books even seem to be baiting you into it. I'm not going to do it. I'll get it out of the way. Probably less than normal. I've got 3 futures this week. I've got Hovland at 25, Ludwig at 60 and 35, and Sahip at 90. So I honestly feel like I can't, even if I wanted to bet Scottie, by simply playing some futures. And I'm the guy that says if you want to forget a future that you made months ago, you just chalk it up like a lost football bet. It's gone. It's gone. But even like once you got a couple futures, like you can't really bet Scottie. Even if I want to toss one of them away, I can't.
I have a bad future I have a future on Wyndham Clark at 50-1, assuming that number would be like, fuck, he's gonna be like 20-1, defending champ by the time it comes around. He's like 65-1 now. Bad.
He's all over the map. That sucks. It's the game, the fine line with the futures. Like honestly, the casuals want to make a bet. It feels like it's got Scottie Brooks. You can even bet both. I don't even think that's crazy. If a casual who's not on this grind of golf in, week out, wants to take a 3-1 Scottie and toss on a 25-1 Brooks, I don't think that's nuts. I don't. I'm not doing it. I'm not betting either, but I wouldn't be one of these people on the internet calling you out for that. Now, if you added like placements to them or something, then I'd be like, okay, you're nuts. But
adding the placements to the 25-1 would actually make more sense theoretically if you were going to only bet 2 guys, wouldn't it?
You could be right on that. There's also, I know the books, usually they wait a day or 2, but Scottie is so dominant, like on the drop this morning, they essentially have the betting without markets as well, Pat.
Maybe I should go take a look at that, see if there's any names that pop out to me there. So Vincenzi likes Rory this week. We did a big player-by-player. People can go check that out now on the pod feed or up on Mayo Media Network. I'm not huge on Rory this time around, although he played better than I thought that he would at Jack's place. And then Xander ended up having a pretty nice weekend, kind of rallied back a little bit when the conditions got really tough. He started to play a little bit better. It's not what you would have expected from Xander based on what he had done coming in. It just felt like a bit of a letdown spot. I'm not going to go to those 2. If I was going to go to anyone that wasn't Brooks below 30-1, I think you'd be hard pressed not to bet Morikawa, like versus Ludwig or Xander or Victor or even just Bryson, anyone who's popping up in that range. Morikawa is not only playing the best of those guys right now, this is a good course for him.
In the same way people I feel like always want to bet him at Sawgrass. Well, in a different way, but right, just it feels like it should be a lovely course for Colin Morikawa. You might argue that he might not be able to, like, just historically with the U.S. Open, his driving distance isn't ideal, but this would be the venue where he could mitigate that. He's playing beautifully. The guys that are winning tournaments, even when it's not Scottie, they're playing well. The guys that have played well are continuing to play well. We should expect Morikawa to play well this week. And if you are a Morikawa fan, it was great to see the putter look really solid on Sunday. I swear to you, I accidentally fat thumbed. I mentioned I recorded it. He hit the putt on 2, I think it was. I fat thumbed it. That's for sure. Like, oh, he's not going to make this. It's Sunday Morikawa. Makeable putt to like inch forward. Going to miss it. So I'm tipping his cap after my fat thumb. Watched it again. He hit all of his putts very lovely, it seemed, throughout most of the day. Outside of a lag putt on a par 5, but he still made the birdie. Seemed like he's doing great. He gets up and down. Put him in a bunker. He's going to put it to like 4 feet.
Last 3 U.S. Opens for Colin Morikawa. He was T14 at LA Country Club a year ago. He was 5th place the year before that, and then 4th place the year before that. So even at the venues that do require a ton of distance, because of his long iron prowess, that he's really been able to overcome a lot of that and play well at U.S. Opens. And now we get one where the long irons are most definitely going to be in play, and his accuracy might be more of a boon for him this week than it usually is at this major.
It seems like it. Right? You do not want to be missing these greens. They're incredibly difficult. They're incredibly difficult to stay on. And there was that crazy stat where Morikawa, when he's inside a certain range off the tee, I think like 1 to 115, he makes birdie like 25% of the time, like far and away most on tour. I don't know. There's a lot going there. He's trending right. It's weird for me to say the guy who's won 2 majors, and I'll just end up betting, not knowing how I'm supposed to bet around Scottie. And majors are like, it's almost like I'm cheering for my favorite teams in some ways. Probably end up betting losers I like and saying I don't really even trust Morikawa, which is strange, but I love how he played Sunday. I don't trust him.
So Brooks for me, 25 to 1 is the bet. That's probably going to be, I might get to Morikawa. I'm very much considering doing it. I think he's going to end up being my one and done because I've used Brooks already. I've used Hideki already. So Morikawa would logically be the next guy for me on the one and done sheet in our 3-man game. In the larger one, I think I've used him already.
I'm running out of really good players, to be honest. I'm burning them, I think, successfully, but are you buying into this being far more random?
Yes, I am. It's not that it's far more random. I just think that good shots could not be rewarded here, and it has a compounding effect. Like, I went back and I watched basically the entire final round of Pinehurst from 2014, and like Rory had a couple of shots that were just awesome, and he just ended up in the worst spots because of it. And because he ended up in those terrible spots, he had the ball rolling back to his feet just because he misjudged it by a foot. That I do think that there is a compounding effect that you need to be mentally very strong at this place and just kind of shake off some bad breaks. Yes, I mean, he's the German machine. He was able to do that, and he didn't suffer that many bad breaks in 2014. But I just take a look at some of the other guys that were up there. Like Ricky played really well that entire week, but then you go down the leaderboard a little bit more and you see like Brooks and Dustin and Day. Like these are kind of unflappable types of players.
Just even keel. You don't know whether they make birdie or bogey. It's almost like they're very stoic.
Which is a great case for
like a good NFL coach.
Which is a great case for Scottie. Like everything just points to Scottie this week. So trying to figure out ways that it's not him. Like that was the one thing with Rory. Like you could tell he was just visibly getting frustrated with the place. And that kind of takes him out of it for me a little bit. Like who would you say, not necessarily hothead players, like CUST mentioned Hatton, I would tend to agree. If things don't start going right for Rahm, even with his injury, I could see that not going great. Although he's really worked at being better in that, it still crops up from time to time. And I'm not throwing stones here. I am that way when I play golf as well. I'm an absolute hothead, and it completely takes away from my game when things start going wrong. But if you think about like stoic players, who would you throw into that category, do you think?
Stoic? Well, like going from the top, I think Xander's pretty stoic. I'd argue it's a reason I've seen some people make fun of him. Like they want him to have some personality. Ludwig, incredibly stoic. Like almost too stoic. Want to see a little pizzazz because you're so young. I think Tommy, stoic. On the flip side, Justin Thomas, quick to enter golf sad. So not stoic. Matsuyama, absolutely stoic. I'd even argue Fitzpatrick. Thursday, he had that insane like blow up. You didn't even know. The guy didn't show any emotion as he's having to chip into a bunker and shit, ruining his great start to the tournament. So that's me in that hitting the 50-1. Spieth's certainly not stoic. I don't think Lowry is stoic either.
Neither is
Hatton, while being like what would feel like a perfect, lovely course fit, if he wins this, anyone who bets him, I feel like it's 60-1 based on the talent. Like, I don't think that's unfair, but you should get a true gold star to have the guts to believe he's going to be able to do that on this course in a major championship. And I love Hat. I would be so happy. I'd be so happy if he won. On the weekend, I thought I'd love to bet him, but then it's like, it's a major. Like, you can't pull the trigger on this guy.
Especially with Scottie at the top. So 2 things before we get into this odds range. 1, if you don't have your Father's Day gifts in yet, easy game. Go to omahastakes.com, use promo code Mayo, save at checkout, and get an exclusive bonus on packages starting at $89. You don't have to leave your phone. You can just sit on your couch. You're at work right now. Just go to omahastakes.com, pick the $89 box, get it sent directly to your dad's house. Boom, use code Mayo, get some savings on that. And if you do want to do more research into the U.S. Open, obviously, I have my research show that came out. Shout out to Keith Stewart for coming on to break down Pinehurst with me and different comp courses and different elements of this course that we can look at. I dug deep into that. But if you want to dig deep into that, fantasynational.com/Mayo will get you 20% off any of the membership levels and exclusive access to the Fantasy National app, the best leaderboard app in the world right now. And you get the 20% off. Just get the weekly right now. Get it on Wednesday, and then you get next week for the Travelers at an elevated event as well, and it'll be $8 for you with code Mayo. So go check that out, fantasynational.com/Mayo. The entire odds board from 30 to 60 right now, Tommy is actually the guy at the very top of this, coming in at 33-1. Obviously, there are bigger numbers that you can get out there for him if you wanted to, and he has an amazing track record at the U.S. Open, because you mentioned he's a very stoic player, grinds out a lot of pars, which you absolutely need to do this week. And even the Brooks comment that you made a little bit earlier of, turning double bogeys into bogeys is such a massive thing to do once you get to some of these harder tracks. So Tommy comes in at 33. Thomas, Cam Smith, Cantlay, Max Homa, Matt Fitzpatrick, all 40-1. Hideki, Sahith, Hatton, Tom Kim, Spieth, all in that 50 range. We also have Finau and Wyndham Clark, Will Zalatoris, then Corey Connors and Cam Young at 60-1. That's the entire range. If you use an enhancement or at some other places, and I think a couple of these guys are going to drift lower or higher, I suppose, as the week goes along, that I don't want to bet Tommy, but I might bet him top 5 because I do think this is a really nice course for him. And I'm not completely opposed to what CUST said about Cam Smith. I can get a number as high as 50 on Cam Smith right now. You can't take any placement points with that, but if I'm thinking about guys that can run down Scottie, what is it going to take? And I do think that the Cam Smith skill set is in play to beat Scottie. He just has to make all the putts.
Absolutely. It's hard to argue that. He does have that sort of wizardry that can work here, that can bail you out here. What's funny enough is Keimer, at least that season, wasn't showing any of that wizardry, but he had that ability to peak, right? While his driving was great and while other facets of his game were great. It does feel like there's money to make on Tommy. Feels like I don't know why the bookies are so afraid of this guy.
Because they know they will take your action regardless of what the number is.
No, it's not regardless of anything. I've bet Tommy a lot, but so have a lot of people. but I don't know that you can make Tommy like the front runner of the tier. Like, I don't think that's everybody seems like a great course fit. Maybe a book like 365 Pat is really trying to squeeze the placements because of, Tommy's US Open track record. But, places that are offering win only, there's a lot. You could do a good almost 20% better, I would say, from that group. Going farther, for me, it's, I don't know, Fitz and Hideki. Seeing them both at 55 to 1s widely available. Those seem like guys that, I don't know, if I have to make a pack of golfers to beat down Scottie Scheffler, those would be a couple that I think I could be looking at.
I bet Hideki at 55, and I got the top 8 placements with him. I liked what I saw at Memorial. I needed to see something from him because, again, as CUST alluded to, that he had played the Masters, he had played the PGA Championship, and that's all he had done in the past 2 months. And it was very clear he had a WD at Wells Fargo along that time as well. So he was dealing with some sort of injury that it seems enough like he's healthy right now. So why not go to the guy that when I did my overall world rankings, my world rankings previous to the Masters, I had him at number 4. Like, dude was playing the best who wasn't Scottie Scheffler in the world going into the Masters, and we just haven't really seen him since. So if he can recapture some of that, everything that we've spelled out kind of fits this for him perfectly. He's not the longest off the tee anymore, but he's wildly accurate. His irons are great. These are the sorts of greens where he can putt really well, like this sort of Bermuda. We've seen it, the POA / Bermuda at Sawgrass. He's played very well at Sawgrass. He's putted very well at Sawgrass. And Keith even pointed out that these greens will run very pure, just like they do in Phoenix, a place where he has won twice in his career. And we know his around the green game is probably a best in the world right now, regardless of the different surfaces. But even when I compiled together some of the runoff area short surfaces that should correspond to this course very well, like he was number 1 in that as well. So if he can run a hot putter and not really put himself behind the 8 ball off the tee and come with his typical chipping, his typical irons, he's live for sure. All you need is get Scottie to get caught in the wire grass once or twice, then it's open season.
Yes. And what else sort of quality does Hideki bring? And I'd argue, at least I did a fat finger count here. I think there are like 14 guys ahead of him on my odds board between him and Scottie, not including Scottie. I don't think there's 5 guys who actually have a better chance of winning the golf tournament or of beating Scottie Scheffler right now than than Hideki with his A game. So I don't, I don't know. The guy can just catch fire. That's what I wanted to say. If shit's going to get different out there, he is one of the few golfers, Pat, who at times can post a score like he's not playing their golf course. The scoring average is 2 over. He's 3 under, 4 under. And he's part of, there's only like 3 guys under par today. He's one of them. So that's, as of the Monday morning moment we're speaking, I don't see how this 50 to 1 Hideki isn't so hyper popular. That's the only negative I can put on it. The fact that Tim has it in a hard and custed it, maybe that can offset the public nature of how popular this feels it has to be, as everyone's trying to find a guy at a decent number who could beat Scottie, which is probably the dumbest thing we could be trying to do, but we're here to do it.
Anyone else in this range, Justin Thomas does have some appeal to me. I just don't like the number. I need it to be slightly bigger. So if you're going to give me Hideki at 15 points more or 20 points more than JT, then I'm going to take Hideki in that spot. And if he's the same as Cam Smith, I'm going to take Cam Smith, despite the fact that Justin Thomas has won 2 major championships, both PGA championships, but he has the players on his resume. And these are the sorts of courses where his game really comes through, where driving means a ton. He still hits the ball a ton, and they're the wider fairways. But again, his irons have been fantastic. The chipping has been as elite as it has always been for Justin Thomas. You worry that can the guy make any putts? He didn't make a ton of putts last week at Memorial. He lost almost 4 strokes at the PGA Championship. It seemed like he had turned it around a little bit, but he's gained strokes once since Bay Hill, and that's a run of 8 tournaments. So that's not looking great at a U.S. Open.
I'd give you my take, but you'd have to wait. You've got a busy day, and I don't want to make you have to bleep something. Okay? That's my thoughts on him. I actually don't have anything that mean to say other than I fucking hate. Hate's a strong. From like a golf betting, if there's a golfer I can never see win again, it's him. It's Brian Harmon. The most expensive thing I do in golf betting, and it happens rarely, is bet on one of these guys. Because what I do is I bet so much in order to crack a smile if they actually win. The problem is they don't. They don't. He doesn't. I got sucked into him last week. I don't give it. No, I'm never getting sucked into him again. I'm never getting sucked into him again. It would be an unfathomable amount of money I would need to smile to see him lifting a major. Oh, gross, disgusting, revolting. No. I want him staying on the mat. Stay on the mat, Justin. Stay on the mat. We skipped through it. It's mentioned briefly with Tim. I don't mean to go backwards, but I made the comment last week that, like they're going to put a ladder on Rahm and raise it if he doesn't play well in Houston. And then obviously I didn't even know till Sunday that he's hurt and withdrew from Houston. So that's a bit of maybe a free out for me, because I almost promised I would if they attach a ladder to it, Pat. And we're talking, it's like 25, 30. I'm telling you, this thing could hit 40. This thing could hit 40 if no one lays a cent on it on some of these rogue offshores or funny streeters. There could be some huge numbers. And I don't know what to make. Is he hurt? Is it a cut? Like, I don't even know what happened there.
It seems like it's a cut on his foot. What do you make of this triumvirate here? Because they're all 40-1. Homa, Fitz, Cantlay.
Fitz.
Rank
him. Fitz would be my pick if I'm making a pick from that trio. Yeah,
he was around. He was lingering at Southern Hills that Thomas actually ended up winning, and then obviously he won the U.S. Open 2 years ago at the Country Club. It just to look at his stats is just, maybe he's one of these guys that you just kind of have to have the feel for, because the stats will tell you nothing about him. It just seems like he's very mediocre. But when you watch his rounds, it's like, oh wow, that's a shot. And then 3 holes later, it's like, what the hell is Matt Fitzpatrick doing? That if he can just contain that for 4 rounds, the good part of it, like, he's a legitimate challenger. I don't like the odds, though.
Do you think there's a part of this place that actually is, because there's a bit of a links feel, that it really could suit the European players or some of them? And there's someone posted a thing, because it was Campbell who won here previous, and Keimer, and they showed both of their PGA wins versus their European Tour wins, and it was almost like 2.5x on both. Now, obviously, it's easier to win on the European Tour, but just players that I guess had a lot of European golf reps.
I think it's easier to win on the European Tour when you play on the European Tour as well, which most of these other guys don't do.
Yeah, no, that's I was making that point, but there is I don't know, the links feel to it. This would be like a way to talk in. No, I'm never can't bet hat. Just can't do it.
I would say that if you're going to swing that around, and that's the logic that you want to use, you should be looking at Fleetwood or Lowry.
I mean, Pat, you know me well enough to know that was a sideways argument to allow myself to maybe bet they did. People are the guy waking up on a Monday of a major and like people are talking up Tommy Fleetwood really pisses off a guy who loves Tommy Fleetwood. There's no way he'll play fine though.
Tom Kim and Finau and Spieth are sort of at the back end. Same as did you bet Sahith? You have the future on him at 90, right?
Yeah, I have a future on Sahith. Tom Kim, right? The Sedgefield, some Donald Ross love.
Yeah, I don't think that this Ross course has much to do with any of the other Ross courses, to be perfectly honest.
It would feel that way. It certainly would feel that way. Finau, he's playing lovely, but this doesn't feel like he's got the amount of up and downs or putter moments in him. The same way, I don't know, you feel like you could extract those moments from some other people.
I would tend to agree.
Like even looking at the gala, still it's at 70-1. Maybe because he's less battle tested than Finau. Part of me believes he, the lack of the battle test means he could maybe respond to the challenge. And I do feel like we get the luck sack, we get those magic moments from Sahith, and he can hold on in other places. You hope.
You hope.
What does 50-1 pay on an each? What does the each way pay on 50-1? I'm bad at math.
On the top 8, it pays 10-1.
What do you got to do it this week? I say this a lot. It's like a broken record. I was even with a friend this weekend. He's like, "You talk about doing it. Maybe we should do it." I don't know if I could ever actually do it though.
Well, let's talk about
10-1's not bad.
No, it's not. So I mean, I got better than that on Hideki. I get 11-1 on Hideki for a top 8 if he ends up coming inside the top 8.
Scottie will have broken me if I'm firing in each way on a 50-1. I will, like, it's gone to the point. Like from he's totally had me do things I never do.
Well, you're trying to adjust. You mentioned how Victor Hovland is not very good at in-round adjustments. You're just adjusting to the new reality of golf betting. But not really, because you'll just do the same thing you always do.
Yeah, I'm really stubborn. I could be real stubborn. You're not wrong. Life's about, making adjustments and reacting to what's happening, and those who stay get left behind. So credit to the casuals who just get a carefree bet Scottie. Like to not have to wake up next Monday to talk about the Travelers, to then have to talk about Detroit and John Deere. And just not being in the grind, I feel like you could so freely just bet Scottie. But we're in this machine. And I don't mean like I could post it, I could bet a huge clip on it. I just mean it just doesn't feel like it works with the machine at all of having to do this all year long. But I'd rather bet into the range of despair, truly.
Well, the other guys at the bottom end of this, we mentioned Zalatoris, Connors, Cam Young, Finau. I have that future on Wyndham Clark. You can get him at 70-1 right now, 65-1, sorry, if you want to. Vincenzi did say he'd cut his balls off if Wyndham Clark won. So if you want to root for that, you can bet on Wyndham Clark.
No, I don't want to root for that. I do not want to root for that. Wyndham Clark does feel lost. It doesn't feel like he's got he won the Wells Fargo leading into last year.
Yeah. Good memory.
He won. When he was playing great, he was doing his thing. And even though we say we laughed at him, I didn't if Wyndham Clark was his silver, his bronze pick, I don't think I laughed. But this is the guy you believe is the best chance to win the major. Yeah, I giggled. And Tim won. So full marks to Tim, and he wasn't the only one. A lot of people got Wyndham at some great numbers. What about Min Woo? Surround the green magic. Can't hit it.
When we get to that odds range, then yeah, maybe we can talk about him.
Sorry, I'm getting excited. I can't bet Shane Lowry. Feels like could be a lovely fit. There's money probably to be made in Shane Lowry markets this week, but I wouldn't bet him to win.
Well, we'll talk about those markets on the Best Bet Show with Byron and Cam on tomorrow's Pat Mayo Experience. Well, let's get to that range you talked about, 60-100. This is where we're seeing DJ, Straka, Day, Rose, Ann, Im, Bobby Mack coming off of a win and a week of partying over in Scotland. Adam Scott enters the market at 80-1. Siwoo's at 90. You mentioned Min Woo. He's at 66. Sam Burns and Keegan are up there as well. I mean, I don't like Min Woo this week. That's me. But I would take a look at Siwoo at 90-1. Although the guy cannot putt, at least it's 90-1. I don't think he's going to get himself into too much trouble around here. Henley has been very popular. I still like him this week. I don't love 80-1. And then you take a look at Seb Straka, who has now, I think, 4 top 5 finishes in his past 5 starts.
Gotta love Seb. He can handle a big bitch. I don't know if that's it's controversial now. He can handle a man party. like a big boy layout.
Can
He
you
seems to-
can you handle a man party?
No, but if he finally took something like this down, like I don't think we would be that surprised anymore. He is so consistently showing up, becomes a flusher. You know, just flirting with the top, not necessarily breaking through in some big ways. Obviously, we saw him catch his eclipse last year with that score. I believe it was the deer, but yeah, of that group, he would probably be the guy I like the most. I don't know where did we mention Sam Burns, who struggles, I guess, at serious golf courses, but
Yeah,
in some ways maybe might be a lovely play here or fit.
Yeah, not for me, but you can go ahead and bet Sam Burns if you want to. I'm not betting Sepp Straka to win at 80-1. I just don't. We saw it. He was second at the Open Championship last year, well behind Harman in that sort of 5-way tie for second place with Rahm and Day and all those guys. And I think he can most definitely do that. Like if you wanted to play him in the top 10 market, I could see it. But just his performance, it's funny to point to one round. And it's probably meaningless, but just it sticks out in your mind. Yeah, he chipped in for the top 5. That was awesome at Memorial on Sunday on the very last hole. But he had been playing really well all week until he got sandwiched into the final 2 groups with Scottie, with Morikawa, and trying to vie for a win at Memorial against all of the big names, not against Austin Eckroat and Adam Shank at the John Deere or whatever it might be. You know, paired up with the best names in the world, he did struggle. And maybe he needed that to propel himself, or if he gets himself into that opportunity again. It's just, if I have Sepp at 80-1 and he's up by 1 going into Sunday, I feel like there's no chance he's going to win.
Guess those aren't really guys you want to bet, but those placing markets, the way he plays, maybe some people feel there is money to be made there. In this range, Pat, in one of those moments where I was getting some connectivity, it did seem like Saturday night it would have been. Seemed like a lot of people on the internet were talking about betting Keegan Bradley to win the U.S. Open.
Well, then the milk went bad on Sunday. It was a bad final 25 holes for Keegan at Muirfield Village. He was 4th at Pinehurst the last time that they played at Pinehurst. He's playing good golf right now. I could see it. I don't like the odds. That's the problem with the guys in this range, that be it Keegan at 66, or even if you get him at 80, or Sepp from 80 up to 90, and you don't have the placements that go along with it, because that's what you would have to sacrifice if you brought their number up a little bit. I like Henley. I like Straka. I like Keegan. I like these guys, but I don't like them significantly more than the guys I can bet at 175-1.
Okay. I mean, I look forward to, okay. Yeah, there's a couple people that back there. I'm even seeing some huge numbers. So yeah, might have as good of a chance to win. We'll get there as these guys, but I'm not betting Keegan. I'm certainly not betting Sepp. I am going to bet on players who I think are good players.
Yeah,
and they're going to be close to the top, and it's going to be expensive, I guess, when Scottie wins again.
I mean, it doesn't need to be that expensive as long as you don't pepper the board with everything. Like I was thinking about, so I have money on Brooks and Hideki already. Like that, if I just bet Morikawa at 17 and Cam Smith at 50, it's not that expensive of a week.
Yeah, no, you're right. I got my 3 futures. I could get in on that Hideki. Maybe if it's Patrick, find I just don't. The problem is, Pat, I literally don't even trust the really good players to beat Scottie. So it's like, oh, bet this guy deeper, and we can get like a big break, a lucky break, and beat Scottie.
Let's go to 100-1 and beyond. Who are some long shots that you're looking at? So everyone who watched my research show knows the ones that really stuck out to me. And there's not very many that rate out both well in the course condition model and the actual Pinehurst model that I built for recent stats. But Denny does actually do really well, has played well at a few U.S. Opens and some harder courses. Harman rates out pretty well. Both those guys are at 110 or 125-1. Bez rates out really well at 125-1. I just have an affinity for Harris English that I just think that he's a good U.S. Open player. But beyond that, other guys from way down the board that the numbers actually gravitate towards. Matt Kuchar is one of them, who's, good Lord, like 300 to 1 or something. And then just every major, I'll probably just do the top 20 bet that I've done at every major so far, but just going to keep riding Taylor Moore.
Boccia 220.
That's a good number.
Seems pretty big. There's no placings with that there though. So that would be the one that probably caught my eye the most. This one's revolting, but it's, I don't know, it's far back, and if it gets silly and hard and stupid, don't mind Alex Noren. But I don't think I don't make bets here. I don't throw bombs in majors. Like I just don't. Everyone that's won this tournament, Pat, feels like they've been in at least in the last handful of years, maybe since Keimer, and obviously DJ had his breakthrough, or finally got his breakthrough. Just feels like they're all, I could be wrong, but in my mind, they're all like super high-end players who are all around that same age cluster, and it feels like they're all winning their first major here. Bryson, Wyndham, Rahm, Fitz. I feel like I'm even forgetting guys, but it just feels like that. I don't know. The course this, the course that, like the US Open. I feel like I don't know. That's sort of like the lane I'm looking more than any sort of specific player. That makes any weird sense.
Well, I would say that the two outliers to what you're talking about are Wyndham Clark last year and Gary Woodland in 2019, which Tim hit one and you hit the other.
Okay, but the other part of that isn't the outlier, so it's half a hit, is that like first time major winner breakthrough, US Open.
Rahm.
Yeah.
Rahm, Fitz. So the last 5 US Open winners have been first time major winners.
And a lot of them were guys we totally expected to win majors.
Yes.
Fitz, you could probably put in the middle of that. That's a weird one. But certainly Bryson, Rahm, could clearly captain a list like that. So, yeah. But then you look at Pinehurst and like the Wiley vet factor. I wouldn't bet a Matt Kuchar, but am I shocked if like Matt Kuchar and Adam Scott are, how do I say this? Like drafting off of Morikawa and Scottie the same way like a Adam Hadwin was? I'm not. Well, on this golf course, it's weird like that. Rose, who Tim mentioned, sure, whatever.
What about Keimer?
He played well he was a leader early last week, I believe.
Yeah, I think he ended up coming inside the top 10. I feel like he played pretty well at the PGA Championship until the weekend. Like he was up there for a while. He's playing better golf, if nothing else.
I actually thought Tim was going to pick him in his 3-pack. I was a little surprised by that. Forgot to mention it to him. What about Keimer?
Keimer came 9th. He tied with Brooks. And he was 70 in round. He was only 2 under. He went 7 under, even 2 under. So he kind of deteriorated as the weekend went along at Live Houston. Very similar to what he did at the PGA Championship. Started out strong and then just kind of went away as the week went through. But do you think there's anything to that? Keimer very much stated that he was just going to pull out his putter the entire time from off the green at this course 10 years ago. And he did that. And it worked. Do you think other people are going to try to emulate that, or they just don't have the stones to do it?
I think they will. I think certainly more than a handful of people will try. And on that note, like, are you supposed to be looking at who are the best, like insanely, sorry, I don't know how to properly phrase it, because a lag putt could be like a 38-foot putt. I'm talking about lag putts from like 55, 65 feet. Like, who's good at that?
I see. I don't necessarily think it's the same way, because putting off the green is just dissimilar to putting on the green. Like there's a certain weight you need to hit. There's a certain different way that you need to hit the ball in order to control its speed and make sure it gets to the right level. Like some guys are good at it, some guys aren't. And there's just not enough data to really try to figure it out. Like I would say that it would help out guys that are historically bad around the greens. Like when I went back and did that rewatch of Pinehurst, I was like, how the hell did Kevin Na end up coming in T12 that year, 10 years ago. And he just chipped in a bunch of times. And he was hitting flop shots. He was controlling the ball with spin, with his wedge from just off the green. So there's different ways that you can do it. That's why I thought about Memorial Park was one of the first things that, and why I like Taylor Moore a lot this week, in terms of like a long shot, maybe a top 20 type play, that he was just able to so control the ball up into an elevated surface, get the spin to stop exactly where he wanted. His speed control was really good that week. Obviously, Scottie's was as well. And Scottie didn't even win that week. But that would be the kind of player that I'm looking at. Because I was trying to think about, like, can we piece together like how Vic does really well here? And if he doesn't hit every green in regulation, which you're not going to do, even though it's a 71% of fairways hit in 2014, I believe it was 55%. Was the green and regulation average 56%. So guys are just, no matter how many fairways that you hit, you're gonna miss the green. So what happens when you don't hit all the greens? And we saw that was the end of Vic this week. Like as soon as, and it wasn't even, it's usually out of like the long stuff that he actually chips well, and he did do that well. But we saw him off, like I saw him fly the green off a tight surface, like something that I would do off a tight surface, trying to hit into an elevated green. Like that just scares me to no end.
I don't really have a counter to that other than we will hit the amount of greens that will limit that. And people, I don't know, he's played well at the Masters where there are a lot of really tight lies and chipping from, and he seemed to take a knack to being able to figure out those. And yeah, I mean, if you're betting on Vic, he's not the most ideal course fit potentially. You're sort of just maybe trying to play to the ceiling. There's few guys who I think could actually beat Scheffler if they were battling. Probably none, but they were in the thick of it. I don't know. Vic to me is the dog who could do it. I've got my money on Vic. It's a future. It's 25-1. Would I be back in it this week? Maybe I would. I love him.
I don't see how you could look at his number currently and say, that's the guy that I want. I just don't see it. For this course in particular, where chipping is going to be such an important factor.
I really don't have the counter that I wish I had. I don't.
Cam Davis was another one that I was looking at. Not really great form at all coming in, but he's played some of his better golf at Pete Dye courses, Heritage, Sawgrass, just has very high-end finishes, obviously wildly inconsistent. And to use CUST logic about David Puig, or David Puig, or whatever the hell that he tried to pronounce it as, that, he played himself into this tournament, and if that's going to be logic that Tim uses, I want to use it too.
A lot of people played their way into this tournament.
Yeah, a lot did.
A lot of people.
Just baked out, and it's such a long shot. Like I'm thinking like a top 40 type play on Cam Davis. Like he's 250-1 in the betting market. I don't think that he's going to win, but he and Taylor Moore are the same odds. Like I could see a top 40 parlay with those two types of guys, and to play them individually, you'd be getting a pretty good payout on that.
Anything you clip home with these placings, it seems like, well, you can celebrate just as hard as buddy who hit Scheffler at 3-1. Harder.
The only other one that really popped up for me, Berger had the round of the day in the final round at Pinehurst in 2014. He's playing a little bit better golf right now. This fits into what he kind of does well, more accuracy over distance. The irons are coming back, and these are the types of surfaces and the type of greens that he usually does well with. Probably not going to get there with him at 250-1, but Glover was the only other one I could really think of because his game is suited for U.S. Opens. Obviously, he has a U.S. Open win. It was at Bethpage, anything similar to this, but he won at a Ross course last year, and then he won at St. Jude. He's going to hit all the fairways off the tee. It's just you kind of worry that he'll never make a putt when it matters.
I'm always worried. Not only the putt that matters, there's a lot that has me. I don't see it at all. I don't see it at all with him.
Do you know who the top... I'll give you a list here. The top 15 players of the past 24 rounds in bogey avoidance on the PGA Tour. And I guess there's some live guys in here as well. But it's only counted in their major rounds. And you know what? I'll even amp this up a little bit. Past 24 rounds at difficult courses. Bogey Avoidance, because regardless of what the score is, we do think this is going to play difficult. Do you know who is inside that top 15? Give me some names.
Ludwig Aberg.
Yes, he is number 13.
That guy doesn't make a lot of bogeys. Obviously, Scottie Scheffler.
Scottie is number 5.
Bogey avoidance players. We have a Xander Schauffele.
No, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm in a
Xander's 21, if people need to know.
well, I assume Daniel Berger is going to show up on this list based on the timing it's being presented.
No, he doesn't. It was just something that I decided to click on and look at it just to see who's up there. Do you know who number 1 is?
I honestly don't. Alex Noren?
Noren is number 17. Rory, Fleetwood, Homa, Fitz, Scheffler are the top 5.
I wanted to say Fleetwood, but because I feel like every single one of his bogeys kill me, that they probably feel like 5x of a bogey. So my perception is totally off there. I'm a bit surprised with Rory being that high or as high. Like that's incredible. That might thing with Rory, isn't there that incredible stat though that he doesn't win the hard scoring tournaments?
Yeah, he usually wins. I mean, but that's unfair too, because he won with a double-digit score when he won the U.S. Open at Congo, and like no one was even close to him. He just played that much better than everyone else. And then in retrospect, if you only look at what the winning score was, you'd be like, man, that course played easy. It's like, no, there's like 4 guys under par. He just happened to be minus 16.
Yeah, that's the tough thing when the give and take when you're trying to break down those sorts of things, because there is that set. Like Rory doesn't win under 10, low. Like he doesn't win below 10 under par, but when he wins, his ceiling is just unconscious. His A game is so unconscious that he'll never win under 10 under par. Like you could, it works any way you wanna vouch for it, really.
So here's what I thought was interesting. The next 5 guys on the list, bogey avoidance past 24 rounds at difficult courses relative to par. You can find all of this on fantasynational.com. Fantasynational.com/Mayo. Get you 20% off. You hit the description and boom. You get in there, you can search all this stuff yourself. The next 5, 6 through 10. Denny, C. Woo, Seb Straka, Akshay, and Cam Smith.
Surprised to see Akshay on there.
Me too.
The other guys aren't that big of a surprise. I would think Brooks would be on there.
Brooks is actually way down. But remember, a lot of the live guys are only getting major championships put in there. Yeah. Where when we think about courses in their relative difficulty, like Homa has all the rounds from Memorial last week because that played so difficult. Colonial, rounds 1 and 2, when he was like 9 over par, that was there. Rounds 3 and 4 from Wells Fargo fit that criteria. So those are included. The Masters, which doesn't have like stats necessarily from it. Valero for 3 rounds. Bay Hill for 3 rounds. Farmers for 1 round. The Open Championship for last year. Whereas if you go back and look at Brooks and Bryson and those guys, it's basically only major championships. I just thought that was interesting. The next guys on the list are Glover, Hatton, Ludwig, Hideki, Bezadenhout, Seamus Power, Noren, Cam Young, Day, Hoagie, and then Xander, Hovland, and Wyndham Clark. Then Russell Henley and Cam Davis are up there as well.
I mean, to the pampered fucks on the PGA Tour, these last couple of weeks got pretty much a whirlwind for these guys.
Yeah.
Playing a Memorial and a U.S. Open setup. It's like a totally different golfer than we have to watch all year. That's not to like make a case against Scottie Scheffler.
Hey, the first
either because it doesn't matter.
The first 2 rounds of the RBC Canadian Open hit the criteria for difficulty relative to par as well for the field.
Yeah, it's been a great couple of weeks, I guess, for some hard level courses. Can I go back? Someone clearing 100 to 1 here, Pat.
Bez?
Not Bez, but I'm gonna give Dave Tyndall a shout, who was on Bobby Mack 2 weeks ago at that huge price, and then last week had a card that almost ran perfect. Well, because he plays placings, but he had Morikawa with the each way, Sepp and Finau with the each ways on a 3-man card, all cashed. He's seeing it well. I'm just seeing his picks this week. He's got Hideki, and this one, looking at him up here, honestly, I had no idea he was playing so well. Sung Jae Im. 8th at Memorial, 9th at Schwab, obviously the miscut at the PGA, 4th at Fargo's, RBC Heritage 12th, but he notes an insanely consistent North Carolina track record for Sung Jae Im. Seeing him as high as 110 to 1.
110 I could probably get behind. I guess my issue with Sung Jae is, although the results have come along with it, it's in such weird ways. Like, he's back to chipping really well, he's back to driving really well, but he's just dropping an unbelievable amount of putts right now. And, I mean, to kind of look at it, to the North Carolina correlation, he gained 6 strokes putting at Wells Fargo. Different greens, obviously, and they're going to be set up differently, but it's the back and forth with how good his irons can be and how bad they can be. And generally, they're either somewhere in the middle or bad rather than good. And I would just find, like, you're going to find a couple guys that chip and putt their way near the top of the leaderboard, but I think in order to win, you're going to have to be up there at approach. Like, what do you think? What do you think is more feasible? That someone like Sung Jae can get it all together and hit his irons at a Scheffler, or I mean, not even a Scheffler level. No one's doing that. But to finish top 5 in approach for the week and have everything else go along with it, or Siwoo can putt inside the top 10 this week.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it on Fantasy National, it kind of feels like it's the exact same ask.
It is. That's the comparison in my mind. And I would say that you can just get lucky putting.
Yeah, I guess you would rather bet the Siwoo Kim than say the Sung Jae Im or Minwoo Lee skill set.
Correct.
In some ways.
Yeah, and because the tee to green for Siwoo has been top 5 in the world. That's a fact. And he just cannot putt. He's basically doing a mini version of when Scottie wasn't winning. That's what his stats look like right now. The better version of Shane Lowry.
And just to read that stat, he has it noted, Dave does, that Im has played 9 times in what he calls the Tar Heel state, banking 5 top 10s as well as a 14th and a 24th.
I don't think that I don't think that he is calling it the Tar Heel state. I think that's what it's called.
Yes. The Tar Heel state. Yeah. You know, I'm more of a Wolfpack guy, but we're low pro. We're the bottom feeders there.
Quick picks for the U.S. Open. Let's get to it. I have bet Brooks Koepka. Bet him at 30. I'd bet him at 25 if that is the best number on the market available right now. So Brooks Koepka, we'll call it 25 to 1. We'll call Hideki Matsuyama 55 to 1 with 8 places. And I'm circling the drains on Morikawa and Cam Smith. Cam Smith, I do see a 50 at. I can't take placements on that. I'd have to take the placements at 40. So I'm going to work that through in my mind, but I am going to be betting Cam Smith as well. And then I do think that it's going to be placement markets. The only one that I'm really committed to playing is Taylor Moore, top 20. I might go Cam Davis, top 20, and maybe some sort of mix of Siwoo, Bez, Brian Harmon in that top 10, top 20 market. And I do want to do something with Fleetwood. Maybe not a win, but something to throw that together. But I don't know what that is right now. I'll try to figure that out as the week goes along.
What's like the most aggressive you would consider getting?
Like for a bet? I mean, I'll probably throw like $10 on Taylor Moore to win at 250 to 1 anyway. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, like a Fleetwood bet. Like, how high do you like? You won't bet him to win. What are you thinking you want to bet him to do?
I think it depends on where the best number lies. And right now with Fleetwood, his top 5 is plus 650, his top 10 is plus 320. Maybe the plus 650 on the top 5. But then I have to start working through my mind that if I can get the top 8 at 33 to 1 with him, divided by 5, is I can get plus 660 on a top 8. Is that worth double the investment? And I still have that out in order to win? I don't know if that is or not. But for the top 10, it's plus 320. You lose 2 places, but you get more than double the number. Then it would be worth it to me. So I have to figure out exactly what I want to do with Fleetwood.
For me, got some futures. Aberg 60 and 35. Hovland in the mid-20s. Sahith at 90, like the way we've talked today, what I say, what I feel, I probably am going to jump on what I feel will be a hyper popular Hideki 55. And I want to go out of pocket this week to the top and spend some money. And everyone's got me in a pretzel. I might just want to cheer for Rory to win. Like, let's end it. Let's do this on the week of Jay Monahan leaving with a tummy ache anniversary for the summer. All of our friends out in corporate America, Pat, we got a lot of them. How about they go to their boss this week after losing the Sanderson account and say, my tummy hurts. I need the summer off. And then come back and railroad Rory McIlroy with your fucking Kevin Streelman and his cronies. Fuck off. Go Rory. I don't know if I'm betting him, but go Rory.
One and done picks for the week. Tim has selected Scottie Scheffler because he has not yet this season, and he gets to go first. Good pick from CUST. I have used Brooks and I have used Hideki, so I cannot use them in our one and done, but I have not used Colin Morikawa, so I will take Colin Morikawa.
Have I used Rory?
Probably. Yes, you used him at the Wells Fargo Championship, and he won.
Awesome. I'm going to deploy it. Seems weird, but I don't think I've burned it. There'll probably be a softer spot. I don't give a shit. Ludwig.
I'm shy you have not used him so far. I'm shocked you didn't use Brooks.
Oh, yeah, I was in the shower thinking you got to do live.
What, you're in the shower? Hold on. Were you having a beat? A Brooks beat?
No, I was just like, yeah, how do you not, even if they're not your favorite picks, how do you game strategy not pick live in majors? Yeah, give me Brooks. I apologize. I got to save Ludwig somewhere else.
You don't have
if he wins, I'll be so happy.
And listen, I think that the strategy is different in our three-man than it would be in the overall one and done. I'll break this down on Wednesday with Tambo a little bit more about the strategy of it, but I do think that there is something to potentially fading the live guys in the giant one and done only because everyone has that same mindset. I only get to use these guys 4 times a year. So they just end up being way more used than any other golfer, where if you can find a PGA guy that you like, that their number is going to be lower as it is, then you can really squeak up on the field if that guy ends up winning, because you still need to hit the guy who wins.
You literally said for the PGA, I'm pretty sure it was when we spoke, that Xander's should be the best one and done. He'll be sort of stanked on the stank from not winning Wells Fargo or getting blown out by Rory, in combination with myself and lots of people saying how perfect Valhalla was in terms of a setup for your Brysons, for your Brookses, for Neiman's and all that. On that note, Pat, I'm actually already up $44 this week. I had money on Joakim Neiman to win 100-1 when he didn't qualify, even days later for the U.S. Open. DraftKings was still letting me cash out for profit on a guy who wasn't in the tournament. I had 100-1. He was down to like 40 on their book. So that's where their map was. And obviously, they don't care enough about golf to be following like Super Monday and even days later, because part of me was worried to cash it out. And I'd have cried this morning if they gave him a spot instead of Sergio. I would have. I would have, because I would have already cashed out my bet, but I didn't. So I'm already up money. Maybe I should just leave.
Well, I think it has to do with how you end up trying to qualify. That Sergio lost in like the 7 for 8 or 8 for 7 playoff, so he was first on the priority list, and Adam Scott lost in that playoff, so he was next up.
Yes, I agree. It's some level of next man up based on finishes, based on, I think, even field strength of events or something. I just got a little paranoid that they might have, and that's a shame. When we spoke about Liv and Neiman leaving, this was it. This is a fuck around, find out. Fuck around, find out. I love Neiman. I bet him all the time in these majors, but when he left, this was part of it. You weren't Brooks, you weren't Bryson, you weren't Rahm. You didn't have these. And at some point, we were going to lose you when we really didn't want to. And you don't get to play this week, and I'm terribly disappointed about it. But he fucked around, and by fucking around, he's got $100 million or whatever, so he's happy. But, he's home this weekend, so he's finding out.
That'll do it on the Pat Mayo Experience, subscribe to the Mayo Media newsletter. That's completely free. I'll have more information coming out on that and some plays. I wrote up some underdog strategy for when those numbers drop in yesterday's newsletter post, which you can go see completely free once again. But go sub to that, help us out. And if you want to get into that draw for $500 Fantasy National memberships and potentially a cut of Tambo's 5% at the Fantasy Golf World Championships, the thing that will get you the most ballots, use code Mayo and Underdog Fantasy right now and get your deposit bonus of up to $250. That's the one way to do it. The other way, I'm just looking at the numbers right now. We're number one in Angola. Shout out to like the people who download this show in Angola. That's always nice to see. We're number 3 in Ireland. So if you're in Ireland, shout out to you guys. We're top 5 in the UK, top 5 in Canada, top 10 in the US. So if you could download, rate, and review the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast on Apple Podcast, you get 10 ballots into the draw, and you help us out. You can do the same thing on Spotify for another 10 ballots into all of these draws. I'll be back on Tuesday with Byron and Cam, Wednesday with Tambo, Wednesday night with a live chat, then back with Jeff, and maybe even CUST on Friday for the Cut Sweats Live. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience.